What's going on, guys? Welcome back to You Know Ball Podcast. I am your host, Trill Bro Dude, and we are back. And we got some news today that I think a lot of the Hogs will be very excited to hear, which is that one Arturas Karnisovas and his bloody reign of terror is over in the city of Chicago. They finally did it. They finally pulled the plug. After all of this, all these years, they finally felt comfortable tanking, and they finally felt comfortable pulling the plug on a team that was really going nowhere in Chicago and leaning into what should be a good draft class and possibly getting a top pick in this draft. And ownership stepped in and said, we don't do that around here, and fired Karnisovas and Eversley. So honestly, just a hilarious way to end.
Ironically, the most well thought out regime change attempt of the last 2 months. It's really, I mean, that is like the great irony of this, right? Is that they literally just, AK like kind of did like a bad job like the whole time, but the first time they did anything like even remotely, kind of indicating real strategy, grand plan, 2 years, like a thing where it's like, okay, well, yeah, that's what you guys should be doing. Like you're a little late to it, but like, okay. And then they like get fired. I saw some reporting that it was like because the Jaden Ivey situation was like really embarrassing. And it's like, okay, awesome. That's why you want to be doing this.
Yeah, you came to the right conclusion, but for all of the wrong reasons, basically, is what Chicago Bulls ownership had happen here.
That doesn't like bode well for like the future of whatever's going to be going on with them, because like if you thought that was the problem, that they took a flyer on Jaden Ivey and waived him after 2 months because he was going insane, he was like just having like a religious psychosis, like I kind of get it, because you probably could have got a first round pick from the Orlando Magic. B, I think
Wait, what? It took me a second.
Yeah. B, I think that you really need to like, it's just, it shows like a total lack of priorities and a total like lack of like forward thinking. I just feel like, you know, kind of, it's like good for Bulls fans in one way, but like in another, it just feels like, you know, is something even worse on the horizon for them?
Well, that's what Bulls fans have kind of said, because last time they did this, they're afraid, because last time they talked about Garpax, and Garpax, for all of their faults as a front office and a collective, at least drafted really well as a front office. I mean, they drafted Jimmy Butler at the end of the first round. Lauri Markkanen was one of their picks. Kobe White turned out to be pretty good for where they got him. Zach LaVine. They really had
Bobby Portis was a pretty good pick, right?
Yeah, Nikola Mirotic. Like, they had some good picks. The problem is that during those years, they ended up, obviously, they got impatient with Jimmy Butler, moved on from him, then decided to basically, take these guys that were going to be a little bit more of long-term bets, and they didn't really get to see that through. And then the next front office also got impatient, traded some of those players away, or just kind of wasted whatever when they had those players, waited too long to trade them until they had basically no trade value left, which we will get into today. It was only 5 years, but it was a glorious 5 years as they ran this team, 5 or 6 years, really. And there are many things to talk about with the Chicago Bulls that we've kind of talked about ad nauseum on this podcast, but I think we need to revisit them and put Karnisovas on Slop trial today. But the last part of that is like, it does seem harder to get worse than this. Really, what was the crowning achievement of the last 5 or 6 years of the Chicago Bulls? An embarrassing first round loss in 5 games to the Milwaukee Bucks, 1 month of being a good team when everyone was relatively healthy 5 years ago. And yeah, that team had some nice players on it, but ultimately this team was never going anywhere with the core that they had. They made way too many short-sighted moves. They held on to guys way too long, and we'll get to all of that. And the funny part about all this is that Billy Donovan is the one that has outlasted everyone. He came in with this front office, which we'll get to when we pull up the transactions. But the irony of this to me is like, it seems like ownership and Billy Donovan are kind of on the same page about not wanting to go into the tank. And look, maybe with these new lottery rules, they won't need to necessarily go into the tank. I think they're still very far away from being a good basketball team. But the irony of all of this is that like Billy Donovan left OKC because he didn't want this. And and obviously they had Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They had a head start on that. But like you saw like what the benefit of them for tanking for not even a long period of time, really. Like a two-year period of time and collecting all these picks and doing like a fairly quick rebuild did for the upward mobility of this franchise. And then you look at what the Bulls are doing, and like this, as we talked about time and time again, this is the year that you really want to try to get towards the bottom of the standings, because you got a chance at really getting 4 guys that could be potential swings on franchise players. And that's the difference between this draft and most drafts.
Well, and how did they come out of the gate this year? Number 1 in the NBA for the first like 5 games of the season.
Yeah, they were like 6-1 to start the year. They were, and it was obviously fool's gold. They've completely turned out to be, they are who we thought they were. I was on a podcast yesterday and I nominated them for my They Are Who We Thought They Were award. And
history will vindicate me. Go back and listen.
No, you were completely correct. I was basically like, I'm happy for Bulls fans because this, at least my thought was basically all of the older guys are gone and this is a fun, young, competitive team that they can build on with, right? Like they're still very far away from being like a difference making team, but at least look, like your best players are all fairly young players, and you're playing a fun style and you're winning these games. And then they came crashing back down to earth. And it's honestly the best thing for the franchise moving forward that this season was the way that it went. Like them doing exactly what they do every year and getting the 9 seed and losing in the play-in again was going to lead them to nowhere. At least they have an outside shot of jumping up in the draft and getting someone who's meaningful, or maybe even just getting someone who's meaningful in the 6 to 9 range.
There's guys there. We've talked about this, like guards, like, like there's, this is not a team. Like I know Josh Giddey is like technically a guard, but like he's not, shouldn't be a franchise cornerstone or a massive part of your plans. Like going forward, you've got to look at this as a to the studs rebuild. Does that mean you need to move on from Josh Giddey immediately? No. You have the luxury of biding your time, seeing if you can put together, a couple more Mickey Mouse March runs or something like that, or if some team kind of can talk themselves into him, because his contract is like not great, but it's like not terrible. Like, for that type of guy, like maybe somebody, empty stats, bad team guys get traded all the time, especially if their contracts aren't like maxes, like in his, I believe $30 million a year, something like that. Like, so
I think he makes less than that. I think he makes like 25 or 26. It's not as much as you think. It's actually, we were surprised that that was one of their better moves that we'll get to here, is that they didn't just completely fold to whatever Josh Giddey wanted. And now they're going into this offseason with a ton of cap space. I think they have at least one guy that they can build a core with in Vucevic, and then we'll see what else happens with them. But let's get into this. This is what the Hogs came here for.
Bang, bang, bang.
We haven't had a slop trial. We haven't had a slop trial in quite some time. I know people are going to be really excited for this one, especially because it's someone who we've talked about a ton on this podcast. We've made fun of all of these moves at some point. So
the thing about this is I tweeted this as a reaction when we first got the news. Like, this was one of the last like truly unimpeachably bad GMs we had like in the NBA. Like, you can talk about the Kings front office, but like, I don't know that that's like a bad GM versus like a bad ownership, and like the GM is almost like just a puppet for like bad ownership. You know what I'm saying?
I was going to say a bad and the difference between Chicago and the Kings is that, like, yes, the Reinsdorfs are cheap. Yes, they don't really care about the success of the team. They just want to sell tickets.
Yeah.
All of that is true, but they don't meddle in like moves in the same way that the Kings ownership group does. And that makes it basically impossible to do your job if you are a GM, when you have all of these mandates and these ideas that are being thrown around from ownership, and, you know, let's go sign all these wash guys and whatever. Like, I think Karnisovas had pretty much free reign outside of you can't fully tank. And that is obviously a more advantageous position to be in. I think he was just a terrible GM. So let's get into this. Obviously, so first off, he was hired along with Mark Eversley, who used to work for the Sixers. He also worked for the Raptors at one point in the past. April 13th, 2020, those two were hired. Some are saying it's the worst thing to happen during that 2-month span in 2020, especially to the city of Chicago. And the first thing he did was fire Jim Boylan as head coach in August. So good start. Jim Boylan was a terrible NBA head coach. That team was going nowhere with him. And while Billy Donovan isn't the greatest head coach in the world, certainly a better head coach than Jim Boylan, which was his next move, which was hiring Billy Donovan. And I guess we'll get to see how good Billy Donovan really is, and whether we land on the side of Zach Lowe and that he's actually a good head coach and they've just had shit teams, or Sam Sheehan and that he's just kind of overrated and just a guy.
I kind of how I feel about it, but I'm willing, you know, like, also though, head coaches like improve. I've been pretty disappointed with Billy Donovan. He hasn't had the best raw materials to work with, certainly, but like, now's your time, man. If you want to, like, I'm open to being proven wrong. I don't think it's like impossible that like Billy Donovan could be like a good coach, you know, but I certainly wouldn't bet on it, I guess is what I would say about that.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Malone going to UNC was a shock. I think I kind of figured Billy Donovan was just going back to college, to be honest with you. I figured like the Bulls are going nowhere. No other team's going to be chomping at the bit to hire him in the NBA, I don't think. And going back to college just always kind of seemed like the logical next step for him. But now Mike Malone could have an aneurysm on the sidelines when his point guard turns the ball over in a clutch situation.
Can I say something? Just a quick tangent on Mike Malone. That makes so much sense to me. I can't believe I didn't think of it. Like, he is such a little like fascist, like 100%. College coach. Like, you know, like that is such a perfect thing for him. Awkward, not really respected by the NBA guys. Like, they're all kind of weirds them all out. He's a perfect college coach.
No, he is. He's such a showman that it's like, it is kind of perfect for. We've talked about before that you saying that he's a good college coach is actually like perfect fit for college is actually the meanest thing you could possibly say about a person, because it means that they're actually a piece of shit.
You don't see your players as human. You're a I mean, like, look at fucking Hurley, dude. Like,
you're a dictator.
Championship. Like, again, one of the worst people we have
always. And there's been this notion that, like, I do want to be clear. I think that Hurley and his antics are good for the entertainment value of college basketball. I'm not pushing back. I think it is good to have a heel. I think it's fun when there's always a coach that everyone hates, a program that people can rally against. That's good for the sport. I'm not denying that. But these people who are like, I actually kind of like him now. I'm like, he should be killed. Let's be honest. Dan Hurley should be killed.
Yeah, he's not like, it's like, okay, you want your son under Dan Hurley in like a college program? Like,
he is legitimately a dictator.
No.
In any other field, we would not accept this.
No, this is it's like sending your son away to Boy Scout camp with a fucking guy a drifter who just showed up into town. Like,
I don't know. I also don't know why I said that. In a lot of other fields, it would be accepted nowadays. The president of the United States is threatening to nuke a major country on social media, and there's nothing that anyone is doing about it. So
there's war crimes. War crimes are just fucking everywhere now. Like, it's just, I don't know.
I think maybe my millennial optimism brain just hasn't adjusted to this new era of piss and shit that we live in.
Yeah, just bad guys win all the time.
But anyway, speaking of Arturas Karnisovas selected Patrick Williams with the 4th pick in the 2020 draft.
We could do a whole episode on this pick.
I mean,
this is like, because this is like my theory on this. What I think about the Patrick Williams pick is it's actually not a terrible pick, but it's also the worst possible pick you could make. Like because Patrick Williams, we talked about this a little bit when we were talking about Acuff and like sort of this is like a very, very, very baby version of Trae Young in that, is it better to almost just bust a pick straight up and just have a guy who's like not an NBA player in any way, shape, or form?
Right.
And then you just
draft Killian Hayes here, for example,
yes,
who is a few picks later.
Yes. Is it better to just pick Killian Hayes and somebody who's just immediately like washes out of the league, or to draft Patrick Williams, who's an objectively better player and better than some of the other guys that were available in this range? Obviously, a lot worse than a lot of the other guys in this range too, but better than some of the other guys in this range. But you then end up paying him, what was it, $18 million a year for 4 years, and just compound your problem and go out. You know, like that is the thing with the Patrick Williams pick, is that like, you know, it's kind of a median pick for who was left on the board. There was a lot of really good players left on the board. There was a lot of dog shit players left on the board, but you kind of get the worst of both worlds, where he's not an impactful player, but then you are also pumping resources, playing time, money, all this other things into a guy who's an absolute zero for 8 years instead of it just being 3 years.
So I remember at the end of Patrick Williams' second season, Kev used to love to say that he had only scored 20 points one time in his NBA career, and it was in the last game of the season, which we know every year has the fakest, like it's Mickey Mouse March just condensed into one game. Yeah. Basically, like you have like a Kyle Filipowski 40-point game, or Jaime Jaquez went off last year and scored like 45, whatever. Like it is just set up perfectly for guys who are, you know, just going to overperform in that one specific game. Then he had one, funny enough, in that same playoffs, I think he had one 20-point performance, but in 2 years, he had 2 games where he scored 20 points, did not impact the game in really any other way, except for like vague, like he's kind of good on defense and might have the tools to be like a better defender and player in time. Was not a good rebounder, was an average shooter, was not a high level creator, really showed all of the signs during his rookie season of being kind of just a flat out bust, but not, like you said, not the kind of bust that is just like so dramatically bad that you're going to fully give up on the player. And they backed themselves into a corner, had to end up giving him this extension that he was absolutely not worth. I saw a evaluation thing. Very rarely do you see evaluations of players' contracts where their value to their team is negative. But it was the worst contracts in the NBA, and most of them were like LeBron was towards the top because LeBron's like a $25 million player now and he makes 50 something million. But LeBron is also 41 years old and was one of the greatest players of all time and won a championship with the Lakers. Patrick Williams was like third on that list, and he makes, I believe, $18 million per year. And he was valued at negative $4 million per year on this chart that this person had estimated. And he was the only one that was valued as being a negative player for how much money he was making. But just looking at who was on the board at this pick right here, I know for a fact that there is a little bit of a Bill Simmons sliding door moment here that could have happened. And this is this might actually have changed the trajectory of what this franchise was going to do with Karnisovas, because Kevin O'Connor reported at the time, and a few other people had suggested that they were very interested in trading up for LaMelo Ball. And the trade was going to be the second pick in the draft for the 4th pick in the draft, and they send Wendell Carter Jr. to the Warriors. So a few different reasons why I think this is actually kind of a sliding doors moment. Dude. So
can you imagine?
Bulls trade up for LaMelo. I mean, look, maybe LaMelo was just never going to stay healthy, and he was always going to have these years where he's in and out. And this year he's great.
Pretty healthy right now. Yeah,
sure. LaMelo, it was, in my opinion, LaMelo going into that draft was the best prospect in that draft. I did not have a ton of draft takes back then, but I remember specifically I was wrong on Anthony Edwards. I was right on LaMelo Ball. I was very much in on the idea of a high-level shooter and passer with his size and height and production that he had in more so in high school than he did in the professional league that he played in. But I was very in on LaMelo Ball. I was not very in on Anthony Edwards or James Wiseman. Anthony Edwards hit, James Wiseman didn't. So here's why it's a sliding doors moment. The Bulls move up to 2. They get LaMelo. James Wiseman probably goes 3 to Charlotte.
Yep.
I think there's a world where they end up, the Warriors end up walking out of this draft with Wendell Carter Jr. and Tyrese Halliburton. Because I don't think that anyone was going to take Tyrese Halliburton with the second pick of the draft. And I knew there were some people that wanted him starting in this range a little bit later. And they basically said, we knew we couldn't take him that high just because we didn't feel like basically they said, like, if we were going to get him, we were going to trade down to get him. Even though I don't agree with that logic. If you think he's the best player, just take the best player towards the top of this draft. And they
can trade down. Like
they loved him. Like all the reports came out that like they really liked him. The 3 guys they liked were Halliburton, Anthony Edwards, who went 1 pick before, and Wiseman, and they picked the one wrong guy out of the 2 that were available to them. And
this was still Bob Myers saying this though, right?
This was reported around the time though. It's not like we're going back in time to say whatever. It was more, if I remember correctly, I could be wrong on this, might be wrong. If I remember correctly, Steve Kerr was the one who really liked Halliburton. And if you think about Steve Kerr and what he likes in a basketball player, of course he's going to like Halliburton. He loves Steve Nash and he loves Steph Curry. And like he is very obviously going to love Tyrese Halliburton.
We got saved from like 3 Warriors titles, by the way, on that. Maybe more.
Like I was going to say that's a massive sliding doors moment right there, because then they might win in 2021. Because Halliburton was pretty much good right away. Carter Jr., if he could stay healthy, would have been massive for them just at the big spot. And then they also could have, continued to win like they did the next year and possibly into the next few years as Steph aged. So there's that. There's also Charlotte not getting LaMelo Ball. Charlotte's been one of the most fun stories of this season. Yeah. And also Chicago, like, I don't know, like maybe they get LaMelo, they bring in Lonzo. Who knows? Maybe both of Lonzo was always destined for, the knee stuff to derail his career. Maybe LaMelo could never really stay healthy for them, but there's at least a lot more upside potentially with that. And we might not be talking here right now if it happens.
You also remove a pivotal linchpin building block aspect of the real true sin of the Karnisovas that we're going to get into later, where you get out ahead of and stop the Vuce trade from happening, which is the
right, because
damning.
Carter Jr. was one of the main guys that they sent to Orlando. They had this vision of getting Vuce and trying to compete, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But so the next few picks after Patrick Williams: Isaac Okoro, Nneka Okongwu, Killian Hayes, Obi Toppin, Denny Avdia, Jalen Smith, who they actually acquired later, Devin Vassell, Tyrese Halliburton.
Kira Lewis
was after that, but I would say from what I remember from this draft, Jalen Smith was seen as a reach. Everyone lost their mind when that pick happened. Yeah. The guys that you would have really considered here with this pick are Patrick. When the board broke the way that it did, was Patrick Williams, Isaac Okoro, 2 prospects I just did not really understand. I liked Okongwu probably a little bit too much in this draft. I also like Killian Hayes in this draft.
I loved Killian Hayes in this draft.
I fell for that.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was very Kevin O'Connor pilled on Killian Hayes. I think I had him 1 on my board there. So, yeah.
So, Denny, I didn't really know much about Denny. Could have been taken here. Devin Vassell could have been taken here, and Tyrese Halliburton. I think there's an argument other than Isaac Okoro, who is objectively a better NBA player and is actually on the Bulls now, too. Other than Isaac Okoro, pretty much every other outcome here is a good outcome. almost.
I do think like Obi Toppin was like also kind of possible with some of the other things that we like had going on. That was like also like a little bit of a reach, but he was another one where it was like very weird, like where like I think some teams had him very low and some teams had him like very high.
He was older, but he was a National College Player of the Year as a sophomore. Yeah. Maybe I think he was a sophomore, and he was old, but he wasn't like Yaxel old. You know what I mean? Like he was like 22 on draft night, which is there's still room for you believing that like this guy could reach higher level outcomes or at least starter level outcomes. But the long and short of it is that the Patrick Williams one, looking back at it in retrospect, we always talk about every draft has a different mystery box guy, right? Cedric Howard was the mystery box guy last year. We had Shaden Sharp a few years ago. Guys who don't really play all that much at high level competition. Guys who are more like toolsy and theoretical maybe than actual. And sometimes you hit, sometimes you get a Cedric Howard. And Shaden Sharp, I would say, has been disappointing, but still like very clearly like a talented NBA player, even with his shortcomings.
Yeah.
Patrick Williams is like the basically worst case scenario as you laid out before, because he was a 6-man in college at Florida State, did not start for them, was seen basically just as a pools bet. Like it was like everyone's Kawhi is the joke, right? Like any guy that has like, he can handle the ball a little bit, he can shoot a little bit, and he's got massive hands. They call him the paw, like the claw. There was a lot
about that.
I mean, the Paul P-A-W, Patrick Williams. Yeah, like,
Oh,
I mean, that is a sick ass nickname. If he was good, that's an all time.
Yeah, that was a great one. Yeah. But he just sucked.
Unfortunately, he has a basketball seasonal affective disorder, as I've laid out before. He just clearly does not have the motor or will to really care about. It just doesn't really feel like basketball is like the thing that he's going Koa Pete mode. He was not. By the way, did you take Koa Pete off your board after you heard his quote, considering the AJ Griffin and Jaden Ivey? For anyone who missed this, he said that his mission in life isn't basketball and that he was basically here because of Jesus.
I'm like not kidding. That should like legitimately drop him 20 spots. Like I'm not even like just like me being like a loony lib like leftist. Like I'm talking about just like I'm just
current
like
climate.
I'm just saying like just like look at if you're just like objectively looking at like hard evidence of like what makes a guy bust, being really into Christianity is like, I'm not kidding, like a top, like vocally, I'm not saying like, you know, you could, there are guys who are like, God is good, you know, like whatever. And that's like a very like, that's just athletes. You know what I'm saying? Like that, they do that a lot. And it's like, okay, cool, whatever. The guys who like really go out of their way to like bring that up, I'm sorry, that's kind of a red flag. Like that is just statistically speaking, that
I wanted on the record
very likely to bust.
I wanted on the record that I was not in on Koa Pete before that happened.
Yes,
I was like, the way that Hoopers talk about Boozer in this draft is how I felt about Koa Pete. I was like, this guy is not even a good mid-range shooter. He's a post scorer with some playmaking chops, not a great defender, not a great shooter. Like, I just don't, he's wing size. Like, I don't know. I never really got it with him as a prospect. And that made me think like, oh man, this is potential to get someone fired if it goes down that avenue, which we have seen a decent amount recently. So, all right. So no other real moves. I don't even remember Marko Simonovic. I don't remember him. So we're not going to talk about him.
Devin, I feel like he had some sort of moment, but
no,
I don't remember what. He
drafted. He played for the Bulls, but he didn't do anything.
Yeah, he drafted ahead of Isaiah Joe, Kenyon Martin Jr.,
Paul Reed,
and Paul Reed. So,
who, by the way, Paul Reed, went to college in Chicago. Was
and
DePaul, like
right?
He went to DePaul. Like he was right there for them to. And once again, analytics darling, like. It would have been a solid second round pick for all things considered.
You can't really hold second round picks like against guys, but I like 45 is kind of the line where
but
it's
the next year they drafted Io because he went to Illinois and he was a good second round pick.
Yeah.
Like my thing with this front office is that I always tried to predict what they were going to do. Like we were all like, oh, they're going to take Kasparas Jakachonis because he's Lithuanian and he went to Illinois. Like that's literally, and they just didn't do that. So, I mean, that might've been because of Giddey, but like, I could never really, they were a weird front office in that like, I could never really predict what they were going to do. Yeah. And a lot of times they just didn't do anything, which we'll get to. Like, there was a 2-year period where they just like didn't make a trade. This is just an odd front office. And we'll get to the reason why they didn't. Sign Denzel Valentine. Nice. Which at least
did they draft him?
I think they did.
Reunion
if I remember correctly, I'm going to click on his page just to make sure here. I think it's one of those Furkan Korkmaz scenarios where, he just didn't get his option picked up because he got injured. So when you don't pick up the option, if that player becomes a free agent, you could still sign him. They probably just re-signed him for the veterans minimum, I would imagine here. Gotcha. So it's not. The Sixers basically did the same thing with Furkan Korkmaz, where they declined his team option. He played well down the stretch of the season, and then after that, they then went and signed him to a vet min. After it's very rare that happens, though. It is a strange thing.
It's another one of my big draft busts where I was higher on him than I had to learn the hard way about old guys and hyper production.
Also Denzel Valentine, another guy that like him and Chandler Hutchinson were two of the misses from the mid era of Garpax in that decade. But I don't think that the process was horrible on Denzel Valentine. Like if you go back, like National College Player of the Year, yes, he was older, but like if you are athletic enough to play in the NBA and you're National College Player of the Year, sometimes it's not going to work out. But like I feel like the large majority of National College Players of the Year that don't work out in the NBA are usually just because they're not athletic enough. Right. So I don't hate them taking a player like that. And he wasn't like, once again, he wasn't like 24. He was like 22. And like, we see those guys work out all the time too. Like I would say I was less back then than now, but it definitely was, sometimes you get the Denzel Valentines and Frank Masons, and then sometimes you get Zach Edey.
Yeah. I mean, I had him like 8 on my board that year, and I was like, oh, love that for the Bulls when they got him, and he just was terrible. It
took some time, but even Luka Garza, like, is a guy now. Like, I, obviously that's not like someone you want to spend a first round pick on, but I'm just saying that, like, if you have that clout, you have that prestige, and you either have size or athleticism, I don't really hate I'm not going to have Yaxel top 5 on my board, but I'll probably have him top 10.
This is what I'm saying. Like, this is the zone. I think they took him 14, right? If I remember correctly.
It was like, was like, I'll actually go to his page right now just to, I know this was the previous front office, but it was the 2016 draft. And we went over this before. They took him at the last pick in the lottery. Papagiannis was the pick before. Juancho Hernan Gomez, bust. Yabu, basically a bust for you guys. Yep. Wade Baldwin, Henry Ellison. You didn't get an NBA player until Malik Beasley at 19. So it's really hard to hold those kind of picks against front offices, to be honest with you. Like
Garpax once again vindicated.
I was going to say Garpax actually an all-time front office here. We're learning. So they then signed
crying outside the club, babe, come home.
I didn't know how good I had it.
I messed up. You don't want to be out here tweet, but about Garpax.
Packs on my old phone. Anyway, all right. Let's get into the next segment here. They signed Zach Norvell. Don't remember him. Noah Vonleh. Obviously remember him. Better than Joel Embiid.
He sucked, but like type of flyer you should be taking.
A worthy flyer at this point. He was like 26 or something, like 25. I remember when they signed him. I'm like, I don't hate that. And then he just, whatever.
He just sucked. Yeah.
Signed Garrett Temple, good vet locker room guy.
I'm standing up for one of the greatest bag men of all time, dude. Like so
80 million, I think. 80 still in the NBA. Outlasted multiple Hall of Famers.
Respect fucking Garrett Temple, the ultimate bag man. Yeah.
A special talent. So
here it is.
This is the trade where everything started to go wrong.
Yeah.
Traded Wendell Carter, Otto Porter, a 2021 first round pick. Franz Wagner was later selected. By the way, just a brief reminder on this. The 2021 season, when they made this trade, this was the deadline just before this draft. So they traded their pick when they were not a good team. Like they were it was the first year of the play-in, and they were trying to make the play-in. And if I remember correctly, they were in the bottom half of the play-in. They were like the 9 or the 10 seed when this trade happened. And it was also the COVID season where players just randomly, like the Celtics were devastated with COVID stuff. Embiid got COVID at one point. Ben Simmons got COVID at one point. Every player was affected, or locker room was affected by this at one point. And for you to take this risk and trade your first round pick when you are a middling team and risk falling out of the play-in entirely and having that pick go high is fucking insane. Zach LaVine got COVID right after this, and they were fucking done. Like, their team wasn't good. They traded for Vucevic in the middle of the season.
Protect the pick. Protect the fucking pick. Is Orlando not doing this trade because you didn't top 10 protect this pick? Maybe, but then at that point, it's not fucking worth it. Don't do it. Like
you traded it another second. You got lucky that they took Jet Howard with that one. Because if they take I don't even remember who was on the board there. It was a weird range in the draft. I think it was like Case and Wallace.
Was that the 2022 draft?
That was 2023. So they took Jet Howard with the pick. But we thought they were going to take
Derek Lively was on the board.
Okay, Lively was the next pick. Okay.
Yeah. Keontae George was on the board. Jordan Hawkins. It's Grady Dick, Jordan Hawkins, Kobe Buffkin, Jaime Jaquez, Podziemski.
I was going to say, there was a little buffer, but Keontae George making that leap that he's made this year, and also obviously would be such a good fit for what Orlando's needs were during that little stretch where they just didn't have competent guard play at all. Yeah. That obviously, the Jet Howard pick was kind of crushed by everyone from the second it happened. They're lucky that they didn't get 2 blue chippers in Franz and someone else with this pick. But honestly, I probably wanted them to draft Grady Dick, and who even really cares at that point? If you go back and watch that stream, I think I was I think they should draft Grady Dick just because they needed shooting.
I mean, he's a better player than Jet Howard.
Sure.
I'm just objectively. I mean, not that Grady Dick is good, but he is a better player than Jet Howard. So
yeah, he might be able to turn around and have a career.
Yeah,
but it's funny enough, they're both kind of similar. Their best value add is shooting. So Orlando Magic got okay. So this was by the way, they took on the Al-Farouq Amino contract in here. I don't know if you remember this because they traded them Otto Porter Jr. in this trade. And then they took back Al-Farouq Amino's contract, and I believe Al-Farouq Amino's contract went longer. So I have no idea. And he was not an NBA player by this point. No. They signed that contract after he was on Portland, and they were like, oh man, he's just cooked. He barely ever played after this. And they got Vooch back in the trade. And then, so that pick was top 4 protected in 2021, which obviously did, the 7th pick in the draft. Franz is one of the 3 or 4 best players from that draft. I know he hasn't had a great season, but maybe five or 6 best players at this point, because Cade has gotten so much better and Jalen Johnson's gotten so much better and whatever. But Franz is very clearly a blue chip prospect.
It did go a whole other year, by the way.
Yeah, they took on a next year, and we'll get to it because they use it again, by the way. We're going to get to it in a little bit. But this is just a disaster of a trade. This is a disaster of a trade because Vooch was in his late 20s. He was coming off 2 Mickey Mouse All-Star appearances for an Orlando team that could not get out of the 7 and 8 seed. They
were also in the wilderness. They were not good.
This was them finally being we're going into the rebuild. Them crushing this trade makes it a little bit easier of a pill to swallow that the Aaron Gordon trade didn't really do anything for them, because them getting Franz for Vooch and Wendell Carter, who, by the way, within 2 to 3 years of this trade, was better than Vucevic. He was injured, but he's just a better player. Like Vucevic was really only had a decent season or two for the Bulls for the 5 years he was on the Bulls. And it was already a move that was going to cap your ceiling because Vooch is just cannot anchor a defense. It was already a move where you're giving up way too much of draft capital. The risk profile here was insane when you consider that they traded their first round pick when they were bad. And it was the COVID season, so you couldn't predict what would happen. This was just an all-time bad trade from the jump, really. Like, I really do not understand why they did this trade at all, and I don't know what the rush was. I still don't get it. Like, I just don't know what the rush was at all when they made this move, because they didn't even get competitive and good, build a competent team until the next season, which we'll get to right here.
No, and like going into this, it was like considered a pretty good draft too. Like it was like Cade was, I think, pretty well established early on, but then a lot of people liked Mobley, a lot of people liked Jalen Green, and I think Kuminga was
Giddy,
the fourth.
Kuminga
was kind of like the fourth one that everyone was like looking at. So it was like, it's not like it was like, oh, this is the 2023 draft. You know what I'm saying?
It's by the way, it's easy to look back.
Sorry, 2024 draft. What was
2024 was the bad one.
Yeah.
It's easy to look back and say, Kuminga hasn't really worked out like we thought he would, and Giddy and Jalen Green or whatever, but like, just go back and look at that top 8, like just from a prospect standpoint.
Yeah.
You have the top 5 are, except for Jalen Green, who's just a flawed player.
Yeah.
Scotty Barnes, Jalen Suggs, Mobley, Cade, all the way up through really into, I would say the first pick that is like not great is Davion Mitchell at 9.
Yeah.
But then like it heats up again. Like you get Şengün a little bit later, you get Trey Murphy a little bit later, get Jalen Johnson, even Moses Moody's a guy. Like this was a great, and my take that I was going to save for when we talk about the draft the next time is that I think this current draft is the best draft since 2021. Like the upcoming draft in terms of, because last year the top 4 was great. I
still think it's got a shot to be really transcendent too. But
I don't disagree. But I'm
really
saying
good too.
I think this draft has better depth, is what I'm trying to get at here.
Gotcha. Okay,
where I'm like ranking guys on my board, and I'm like, I have this guy 20th. I'm like, in a normal year, I would have this guy like 12th. But I just feel like and now look, not all of them are going to work out. Obviously, it's the draft, but the level of prospect I feel that I'm getting to when I'm getting to 20, and I'm like, I'm shocked how far I've dropped, like Kingston Flemings, for example, who was like a good, productive freshman guard. And I have my skepticism about him, but like, I'm like, can I really put this guy, like in a normal year, I wouldn't be considering putting this guy like outside of the lottery.
Yeah.
So
for sure. He would be like, I think in a normal year, he'd be like, because I agree. He's dropped a little. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Like 7 or 8, like, outside of like, he'd be a solid, like tier 3 player, like, in a lot of like drafts, not a franchise changer, not like a top of the draft guy, but like a good starter, guy with a shot to be a good starter with like some, warts. Yeah. And this is just, I want to stress, this was like head scratching at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're right to nail like the risk profile in particular as like what is so disastrous here,
because it could go bad so fast.
Yes,
like it's one of those. There are very few trades I think of when I think of this, but for example, like when the Clippers traded for Paul George, the risk profile was off the charts with that. The upside was winning a championship, though, right? Like if everything went right for the Clippers, they could have won a title. I think the 2 trades I think of when I think about like trades that limit your ceiling, but also in addition to limiting your ceiling, have such a potential to like have the floor drop out and like make this trade look bad, are this and the Halliburton trade, where it's just like the best case scenario when you trade Tyrese Halliburton for Sabonis is that you win a single playoff series. And that is not even what happened. And And with the Halliburton move, like obviously they traded one of the best offensive players in the NBA that we've seen in recent memory. And this is another trade where it was just like it could, and like I'm still holding out hope that like Franz can get healthy and like bounce back and have like make all-star games and like do whatever. But like it's just a disastrous move from here. Even if Franz is only a guy that's just like an additive, good two-way wing that doesn't make all-star games and have all these accolades and stuff. Like he's just very clearly one of the 30 or 40 best players in the NBA. And to give him up and for his whole rookie contract is just absolutely brutal when you're looking for some upward mobility. So,
just a reminder too, like this is a team that had, this was a team essentially. The roster you're reinforcing is a Zach LaVine headlined roster.
Their team at the time was like Kobe White, who sucked. Like Kobe was young and not good at the time. Like Kobe really had not broken out by any means. Zach LaVine, I mean, you go back and you look at this roster, and it is just not a roster that you're in a position to trade for a player like Nikola Vucevic and make a massive difference.
Do you want to guess who was fourth in minutes played total this season?
God, I gotta go into. Could you just give me a position?
He's a power forward, sometimes small forward. Guy who's been around the league a long time.
It's not Bobby Portis because he was gone.
Former Sixer, also.
Thad Young?
Thad Young, baby.
Oh, Jesus Christ, dude. This is the state of your roster when you're making this trade. Yeah. 2 first-round picks and a third-year Wendell Carter Jr.
I'm going to go in descending order of guys who were available on this roster when this happened. Okay. Like this is in terms of total minutes played for this year. Okay. Where they made the Vooch trade mid-year. Kobe White, number 1, Zach LaVine, number 2, Patrick Williams, number 3, Thad Young, 4, Garrett Temple, 5, who was in the trade. So like he banked these minutes before the trade happened. Lauri Markkanen
Temple wasn't in this trade, but yes, continue.
Sorry, he wasn't. No,
they just signed him. We just
said. Okay, never mind. Sorry. Yeah. Lauri Markkanen, who was not Lauri Markkanen yet, was like bad. And the Thomas Satoransky 7, Denzel Valentine 8. Like,
yeah, and they traded Daniel Gafford, which we'll get to right here. So the next move they made was they traded Daniel Gafford and Chandler Hutchinson to the Washington Wizards. The Chicago Bulls traded Luke Cornett to the Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics traded Javonte Green, Daniel Tyson, Cash to the Chicago Bulls. The Wizards traded Mo Wagner to the Boston Celtics, who they waived, and then he ended up signing with his brother and going to the Magic the next offseason.
Trade, by the way, I was so bad.
And the Washington Wizards traded Troy Brown Jr. and Cash to the Chicago Bulls. Oh, wow. Sam hated a trade, and it actually ended up working out for the Boston Celtics.
I'm usually pretty good on trades, but the draft picks I'm bad on. But for the Celtics,
but also everything works out for you guys, and you need to stop acting like it won't.
That's true. I mean,
even if it doesn't immediately, Cornette 2 years later is one of the best backups in the NBA and helps you win a championship 3 years later.
You gotta remember, I'm not Will. I don't just have my college team just win the title out of nowhere. I'm not used to this. I'm not used to having
the decadence.
Yeah, the decadence. Will, it's so annoying. Will is just acting like he's an impoverished sports fan when he gets to
football national championship.
Michigan. Yeah,
basketball national championship.
These dynasties. He's out here acting like what he has no idea what it's like to only win one title.
Yeah, you could say that for the next month and a half, 2 months until the Celtics win the most demonic title of all time, and then I have to post that clip, and at least we get a viral clip out of it.
Yeah, I was gonna say it is a little bit of a hedge bet, right?
And meanwhile, I'm over here like fucking bleeding out watching the Sixers lose to the Spurs without Wemby. Wemby gets hurt in that game, and we fucking lose in basically a must-win game
too, though.
Joel got hurt, but he came back in. And he scored 33 points. Okay, it was one of his better recent scoring games. It was like, honestly, and it's you. I know you can relate to this. Mm-hmm. It is the worst when, like, the reason we lost that game was, there were a lot of reasons. Our team sucks half the time, but Maxey was just he was just not shooting, and he was just not. He didn't have it as like it was the worst Maxey first half I can remember in quite some time, and it took us completely out of the rhythm of the game. And it's just one of the worst feelings when one of your favorite players is the reason you basically lost a big game. And now we might fall into the 9-10 game because of it. Well, we'll see.
Did you see the heading into tonight, all the outcomes, like, availabilities for the East? It's really funny because, like, basically 5 through 10 is completely
anyone can
go anywhere.
It's really 6 through 10. The Hawks just have to win one more game. Yeah. And it's 6 through 10, but, like, yeah, it's the Hornets, the Raptors, the Sixers, the Heat, and the Magic all fighting for 6.
Can I tell you, I'm tracking another quick tangent. I'm tracking our over-unders because you and I are kind of on track to have our first losing pick'em season for the over-unders. Although we are kicking the shit out of Bill and Zach, though, so a little bit of a silver lining there.
Let's go.
But the like, there's a ton like this where it's like, fuck, one more of these and we lose this one, but they keep doing, like, the Nuggets have won like 9 in a row, so that one, like, it's like still not dead. Nope. If they can win their last 3 games, we're good.
I have literally no idea what to do with it. The two teams that I'm like, are you good or what, are the Nuggets or the Knicks? Like, those are the two teams that I'm just just tell me whether you're good or whether I should fucking give up on you. Like,
I can't tell with the Nuggets. The Nuggets could be like that. I think it's just the Nuggets, because I think the Knicks just kind of are who we think they are, where it's like, they'll be good, they'll be bad. They are going to send the Celtics to 7. Like, I'm sorry, pencil that in. That's going to be a war.
So the Nuggets could definitely lose in round 2 or win the championship. It's just like last year.
Yeah, exactly.
It's literally every year with them.
Every fucking year. And the Wolves, well, and we both took the Wolves under, and I'm like, well, that one's chalked. And then they've gone into a death spiral.
Collapse.
And we might get that one. So
we might be. I'm interested to see what happens with Chris Finch. I know they made back-to-back conference finals.
Yeah,
but I'm interested to see if he ends up being the scapegoat for. I don't think they're winning a playoff series. Like, I don't see it with them.
I say this every year where I'm like kind of underwhelmed.
Yeah, but I mean, sure. If they play the Nuggets in round 1 and Jokic sprains his ankle, they'll have a chance. But, like, they're lined up to almost certainly play the Nuggets, because the Lakers are losing and the Rockets are going to do everything they can to stay in the 4-5. And they play the Timberwolves, so they kind of can. Basically, the winner of that game is going to be the team that ends up in the 5 seed and gets the Lakers, and that is really the free pass.
Yeah.
So that there is a chance that free pass that ends up getting them to the second round of the playoffs, but that's the only scenario.
Luka's alternative medicine. He's going to
I'm not so sure about that.
Aaron Rodgers ayahuasca camp to get his hamstring really reattached,
so he can play game 3 when they're down 2-0. Like, it makes no sense to me at all.
Why would they even do that? Like,
they have no chance at all this year anyway. Like, their best case scenario was that they make a shocking upset in round 2 and make the conference finals. They're not beating both of those teams in OKC and the Spurs, and they're probably not beating the Nuggets either. Like, no, it's just like, it's ridiculous. But anyway, let's get back to this. This trade is whatever. Like, I don't know. Like, Gafford went on to be pretty solid. They got Javonte.
They are sending out guys who ended up being good for bad players. So
sure, they sent out Luke Cornett and Daniel Gafford. That's tough, definitely. For Javonte Green was actually pretty good for them.
Yeah, he was fine.
Like a solid bench wing. Daniel Tice, they immediately traded the upcoming offseason in a sign-in trade, which we'll get to in a second. So yeah, this is not a good trade by any means. Like, Gafford was even if Gafford is a very flawed player, he was on a finals team. And he was backup center.
Later on, Daniel Tice would be traded to a team that ended up winning them the title.
Many are saying the acquisition of Daniel Tice is what got the Oklahoma City Thunder over the top that year.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so yeah, no, I mean it's not good. I'm not going to sit here and act like this is a bad trade for them, but it's also not. When we just talked about that, it's like who cares? Like
this is a D+ trade or a C- or something like that. So yeah. But here's a good one. Here's a good one.
Selected Ayo Dosunmu in the second round with the 38th pick. By the way, if I remember correctly, by far the best player available on the board, because I think Herb Jones was selected before this.
Literally the next player to be is Keita.
Well, maybe not.
But it
Keita also
like
was
that
on
until very recently.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
yeah.
Keita was a two-way guy. Like it took some time for him to get where he is right now. There's also probably someone I'm forgetting. That was
Aaron Wiggins was like drafted 55. As Mamu was drafted 54. Luka Garza 52. All bench
players, basically.
Yeah, like it's not crazy. I mean, like next guys were Jared Butler, Joe Wieskamp, Isaiah Livers, Greg Brown, Kessler Edwards, Juan Bagarin,
Philip Petrozev,
never came up,
Charles Bassey. I'm just remembering the Sixers guys from that draft that did nothing for us.
Sharif Cooper, son of the famous agent.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, no, it's I mean, you know, pretty good. I mean, really good pick though to get a rotation player. No, regardless, really good pick to get a rotation player in the second round. Probably would have been a lot better to draft Franz Wagner and Ayo Dosunmu this draft, but you know, hey, what are you gonna do?
Me when we have the Maury Slop trial and I'm screaming about how we didn't draft Maxime Reynaud instead of Janai Broom and walked out with VJ and Maxime over a 1-year contract dispute. I'm not mad at all. Traded Daniel Tice to the Houston Rockets for cash. Chicago also received a trade exception. That's just a sign and trade. Yeah. Traded Tomas Satoransky, Garrett Temple, cash, and a second-round pick. Oh, the Adem Bona pick to the New Orleans Pelicans for Lonzo Ball. A great trade at the time. I was like, what are the Pelicans doing? Why are they doing this? I think
you could still argue in a vacuum it is still a good trade, even though
it looked amazing. It was like, wow, you traded nothing, and you paid Lonzo $80 million a year, but he's a really good role player. And like up until this point, we didn't know about his knee. Like we were like, oh, this is fantastic. Like, he was injured sometimes, but not like missing full seasons. And he had fixed his shot with the Pelicans, had become one of the better role-playing guards in the NBA, a great connector, really good shooter, awesome defender, really fit this team and what they needed. Fantastic move, honestly. Like if Lonzo's whole fucking body doesn't fall apart, this is awesome. So they also sent Garrett Temple as a sign and trade. They gave him a big bag so that he could be a part of this. Bag man, incredible. Signed Alex Caruso to a multi-year contract on the MLE. The Lakers famously let him walk after they won the title. Another great signing. Caruso is one of the better MLE fringe signings of this decade. I was thinking about it the other day. It's like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Caruso. There's not many MLE guys that actually make a difference for the teams that they get, and Caruso was certainly one of them.
This is probably their best move. This front office's best move, I would probably say. Because I remember when this happened and I was like, that's kind of a lot for Alex Caruso because he wasn't really respected as like Alex Caruso yet. He hadn't had a career outside of the Lakers.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, is this like a Gabe Vincent style signing? You know what I'm saying? Like where you're signing a limited guy to like a somewhat expanded role and he's not going to be very good. You know, like I didn't see the vision with this. I was like, it's okay, but like that's kind of a lot of money for Alex Caruso.
And then he was on like a scam contract for years.
Like immediately.
Couldn't play big minutes, but every minute he played, he was impactful. He's one of the best defenders in the NBA. Improved his shot a ton with the Bulls. That was something that he didn't really do before he played for them. I mean, they traded him later, and we'll get to that, but he ended up being one of the 3 or 4 key guys on that championship run for the Thunder. So they then signed Tony Bradley to a multi-year contract, who actually just got back into the NBA on the Hawks. They traded Al-Farouq Aminu, Thad Young, and a second-round pick. So, by the way, I just want to point out here, they also included a first-round pick in 2025, and this is the DeMar DeRozan sign-and trade. And the reason why they had to include that was to get off the Al-Farouq Amino contract that they took on for no reason. It doesn't make any sense. And they also sent a second-round 2025 picks, the Maxime Reynaud pick, funny enough, to the San Antonio Spurs for DeMar DeRozan. They actually ended up getting back that 2025 first-round pick and they drafted Noah Essengay with it, which we'll get to in a little bit as well. This was the DeMar sign and trade. So they get DeMar. DeMar has this amazing start to his Bulls career where the team's really good. They put all this defensive infrastructure around him, Vucevic and Levine, with Lonzo and Caruso and Javonte Green and all of these guys that kind of just fill in the gaps for them defensively. They for the in January of 2021, I believe it was, they were the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference for like a few weeks, and everyone was like, the Bulls, this is insane. How is this happening? Right. So that was actually January of 2022, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So they at first you're like, wow, look, DeMar was an MVP candidate. He's having this resurgence of his career. I think he finished 5th in MVP that year, and it was looking like sunshine and rainbows for the Bulls for a very brief period of time. But ultimately, this didn't come back to bite them. But like, you know what you're doing when you trade for DeMar DeRozan and Nikola Vucevic. You just kind of know that you're probably going to be limited to being a play-in team.
What was DeMar's contract situation at this point? Was he expiring or was he a year and a half?
He was a free agent. This was a sign-in trade.
Oh, okay. What?
This was a sign. This is what I'm saying. The reason they had to include their 2025 first was because Al-Farouq Amino was making all this money and he wasn't an NBA player. So they sent Thad Young and Al-Farouq Amino.
Two seconds in the first?
Yeah.
For a signing trade?
Yeah. And then, by the way,
disaster. No, I'm sorry. That's disastrous.
Hold on. You didn't even let me finish. This is to get off the Al-Farouq Amino contract, by the way. And Thad Young got an extra first from the Toronto Raptors a few months after this at the trade deadline. So they really traded 2 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks for DeMar DeRozan in a sign-and-trade.
I mean, I'll let them off the hook a little bit because that Thad Young first-round pick is like one insane. Of the more insane.
You could have never seen.
You could have never seen that coming. Like that's kind of an unfair thing to hold against the Bulls. But like, it's a sign-and-trade.
Yeah,
it's a sign-and-trade. Like sign-and-trades are usually like more like usually. I understand they didn't have the cap space for this, but like there's no leverage like in a sign and trade negotiation. Like usually the team that is sign and trading the player away is giving an asset to keep the traded player exception or like the extra contracts available because it's a player they're essentially washing their hands of.
Well, we literally just saw them do a sign and trade for Lonzo Ball where they just gave Garrett Temple money to make the trade work. So instead of just keeping Otto Porter and his expiring contract, you took on the Al-Farouq Amino contract, so they had to get off of that. It's such a mess, dude. And by the way, we'll get to another sign and trade right here that they did from the other angle. This is the Lowry Markkanen sign and trade, where at this point they gave up on Lowry, which honestly, I will say at the time, I was like, yeah, I get it. Like
it's defensible. Like it played out the way it did. Like it was the right time to move on for Lowry Markkanen. I don't think that like it's the right idea to do something like this. You know what I'm saying? Like regardless of how it shook out and what
I mean
specifically were involved, but
the fit of would have been very strange to watch Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Lowry Markkanen, and Nikola Vucevic all try to work together. Like that would just be so much offense, so much guys who need offense run through them, and basically no defense outside of rebounding. So this was the Chicago Bulls traded Lowry Markkanen to the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cleveland Cavaliers traded a 2023 second to the Chicago Bulls. The Cavs traded Larry Nance Jr. to the Portland Trailblazers, and the Trailblazers traded Derrick Jones Jr. and a 2022 first-round pick to the Chicago Bulls. That was a lottery-protected one that might actually finally convey this year, and they won't be around to see it 6 years later. It literally outlasted them because Neil O'Shea was still running the Blazers at the time and put a 6-year protection on this. Funny enough, Cleveland got Lauri Markkanen, who ended up being the best player involved in this trade. If Portland had just gotten Lauri Markkanen, a little bit of a different wrinkle there. But yeah, so Chicago gets a pick that doesn't really convey. Derrick Jones Jr. actually turned out to be pretty decent for the Bulls. He had like a decent year or two with them. And so that's not the worst thing in the world. This was the time to move on for them. It's just tough that Portland immediately went into the tank after this. And you were thinking like they have Damian Lillard. They're making a win now trade for Larry Nance Jr. Like they're going to make the playoffs next year, right? Well, they pulled the plug. They missed the playoffs basically every year since then. They might finally make it this year. And there's a chance the Bulls get the 15th pick in the draft, 16th pick in the draft. Could end up working out for them now. But obviously Lowry goes on to make 2 All-Star games. It is a tough pill when you've drafted that guy and you end up trading him. It's not like the Vooch thing where like they trade for Vooch and they trade that pick and it's like, what the fuck are you doing? Lowry was like you said, he was a free agent. His time was pretty much done in Chicago. It's tough to give up on a player when they're that young, but he really did not do much for Chicago after his nice start in the NBA. And then he really didn't find his footing as an NBA player until he was on his next team with the Jazz. Like he was good for the Cavs, but he wasn't like all-star level. He was like a solid player for them. So they're not really kicking themselves over this trade until, 2 years later. So yeah, not great, but not terrible, all things considered. Signed Matt Thomas, signed Elise Johnson, signed Stanley Johnson, signed Ethan Thomas, signed Tyler Cook, signed Daniel Oturu, signed Bryce Alford, signed Troy Baxter. None of these guys matter. I'm just Mac McClung did get a 10-day contract. That matters to me, damn it.
Let's go.
I think he's back on the Bulls. I think he's literally playing for them right now. Yeah, he is. He's having a career year, shooting 38% from the field right now for them.
Oh my god,
we need Mac McClugs though. He's important for the league.
I don't want to get like, it's not Mac McClung's fault. I'm glad for Mac McClung that he gets this money and gets to hang around, but it is a huge indictment on the NBA that Mac McClung continues to be around.
You're just you're a dream crusher, dude. You don't want to see a white boy win. It's tough for quirked up white boys out here. Signed Ersan Ilyasova, signed Alfonso McKinney, Jordan Bell. Oh man, Jordan Bell, what a name! Did that just set off something in your brain like a fucking?
Well, they sold his draft pick. Do you remember
Bulls,
that?
Yeah. And then they got it back.
Everyone lost
3
their
years
mind.
later, 4 years later here.
Yeah, everyone lost their mind because they were like, "Oh my god, the Warriors have done it again." And he sucked ass.
Oops.
So,
yeah. Prestige zone.
Not to defend the Bulls being cheap because they definitely didn't know that, but yeah.
Signed Malcolm Hill to a 2-way contract. Signed Tristan Thompson, your guy, Tristan Thompson. He was just whatever. He was washed at this point. Signed Dalen Terry, who was the 18th pick of the 2022 draft. By the way, I famously did not like this pick for them. Dalen Terry was someone I just didn't really see the vision with as an NBA player. He's played for the Sixers for a little bit now. He's on a 2-way with us, and I kind of get it. I don't really think that he might just be like a fringe rotation guy. But the 18th pick in this draft, they were gonna take Tari Eason, but Tari went 1 pick before them. So they kind of just panicked and took Terry with the next pick. There really weren't a lot of guys on the board here that would have made a huge difference. Like Christian Brown was on the board. Walker Kessler was on the board. But most of the guys that ended up being like pretty decent were a few picks after this. There were also busts in this range like Blake Wesley, Malachi Branham. There were guys that they really like. It was just a tough range in this draft. Like Walker Kessler's probably the guy that in retrospect they should have taken here. But it's ultimately like this range of the draft is a bit of a crapshoot.
I was just gonna say they did bad here, but like I don't think it's something to like really fair to like crush a front office on. Like it just kind of is what it is. When you're in this range, like.
Yeah, this does continue the trend of them only drafting like long athletes, though. Like Patrick Williams, Io, Dalen Terry. Like they had this vision that they were just going to draft like athletic guys they could mold into NBA players. And the thing I didn't like about Dalen Terry was like, I don't know, like he's a guardy wing who can't really shoot, and like he has some defensive chops, but it's mostly defensive playmaking. And he's not a high level creator. I've actually been impressed with him in the few stints he's played with the Sixers, but he's just not a meaningful NBA player. And when you have the 18th pick in the draft and you're committed to being mid, you got to hit on these picks. Like that's just kind of the reality. If you're never going to tank, you better be good at drafting from like the Miami Heat, to be honest with you.
Right.
Like you got to be good at drafting from like 14 or 12 to like 20, which is kind of like their bread and butter. Signed Derek Jones Jr. to a multi-year contract, signed Andre Drummond. Actually, Drummond had one good year for them. And that turned out to be a pretty decent signing. Derek Jones Jr. was a really good signing. He actually had like, I think it was his last year with them that I was like, I want the Sixers to get Derek Jones Jr. And then he signed with the Mavs, turned his whole career around. Now he's good for the Clippers. Like this was actually once again another long athlete kind of toolsy guy. They clearly had a type with this team, and he was another one just to add to that core there. So
wait, can we back up a little bit?
Sure.
Did they not do a trade this year?
No, remember they didn't do a trade after the sign-in trades. So they did these sign-in trades this offseason.
Yeah.
And then they didn't do a trade for, I think, 2 full years.
Yeah. So that's what I wanted to underline is we're in the, I think it's more than that. What didn't Kev say? It was
we'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Yeah.
But I think it was 2 full years.
Yeah.
I think it was until the Giddey trade.
Damn, dude. God damn. I guess that was 2 years ago. I think of the Giddey trade as not being that long ago.
So if it was 2 years ago, then it would be 3 full years that they didn't do a trade.
God damn, dude.
Because it was off season 2021 to off season 2024, I think.
God, son of a bitch. All right.
That's a long ass time. And by the way,
they also just didn't have draft picks during this time.
That's the thing, is that they didn't have their draft pick in 2021. They didn't have their draft pick in 2023. And then they're just riding out this middling core with Lonzo basically dead. And at this point, this is an inflection point, right? Because they are kind of going nowhere. They already know that Lonzo's going to be out. They have this like middling team with Vucevic and Caruso and Levine and DeMar, and they're just trying to add in pieces around those guys. Kobe White's at least getting better. There's that at least to look forward to, is that he starts to get better during these years. But then they give Zach LaVine a full max contract. 5 years, 180 million or something like that. More than that, 200 something million. And this was the point. And all you ever heard was that they wanted to trade Zach. Like when they were making these moves to build this team, the idea was they were going to trade Zach LaVine. And they went the opposite direction and said they can't lose the asset, quote unquote. And they signed him to a contract that with a team that was going nowhere to a massive deal. Yeah. And they ended up having to salary dump it 2-3 years later.
This is the stupid thing. Like if you're saying we can't lose the asset, you've already lost the asset, because every time a guy's contract expires, you're starting from ground zero, and this was 9/11. So like, this is like, I think what's like frustrating about this is it's like, I think what it's because these moves are like bad, but they're not like, because they did have some bad luck. Like what happened with Lonzo is like genuine bad luck. Like, you know, like I think there was some red flags on his medical things, but like that's like a bottom.
There's a reason why the Pelicans were willing to do the trade.
Yes. But it's like a bottom like 10%, you know, outcome. Yeah, I would say, you know, like of that trade. And you could see how it like looked good at certain points. The issue with this process was the escalation, starting with the Vooch trade, of trying to take a bad team and make a team that was, you pour all of these assets into it. You're pouring the amount of assets into this kind of similar to like what the Bucks did when they were trying to put their finishing touches on their fucking championship window. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you're starting with like a bad team. Like,
well, I think the best parallel for this is the other side of the Bulls West, basically during this time period. It's the Kings.
Yeah.
Where it's like you're adding in talent and like, cool, that's awesome. But like, ultimately, what is the goal here? Like a Fox Sabonis team is just going to have in the Western Conference is just going to have a limited ceiling, and you're pouring draft picks and signing contracts and doing everything you can to maximize this team while not really having a ton of like ability to win playoff series.
You can't have guys in their late 20s. You can't bring in guys in their late 20s to drive the success of your team if there's no young guys anywhere who are like a substantial part of that.
Yeah.
And that was the issue, is that there was no, like, I think probably the youngest member of the core that they had was like Lonzo or like Alex Caruso.
Kobe White.
But like he wasn't really contributing at this point, even. You know what I'm saying?
By this point, I think he had started to turn the corner a little bit. But yeah, it was really the next season, 2022, 2023, when he broke out. Like he averaged like 20
he's
a game.
Basically the only young guy on the roster.
And he also kind of had to do him and Io. And like he kind of had to by necessity because they lost Lonzo. They like it was not going in the direction that they thought it was. Like they kind of got lucky that Kobe broke out, because Kobe, I think we'll get to his contract here at some point, but he signed a scam contract.
Yeah. Like, I mean, like
he was like $9 million a year or something. And like, we were screaming when it was obvious they were going nowhere, they should trade him. And what did they do? They waited again and they made no moves. And then they traded him as an expiring and got a few seconds. Like, awful. It's just horrible management all around. When you start to realize that, like, this is where you should have pivoted and been like, we're not maxing Zach LaVine. If a team wants to give him a max, go it right ahead.
Yeah. And
we should be seriously consider trading Alex Caruso because this is just going nowhere. And like, can we even trade Vucevic? Like
the Lonzo thing was you're done at that point.
Once Lonzo was cooked and it was obvious that this team was not going to be able to compete and like be in the top 7 in the East every year.
Yeah.
Then you should just pivot out of it. And like, maybe they were holding on hope at this point because it had only been a few months removed, but you don't make a huge financial commitment to Zach LaVine in that capacity when you internally know that you're not going to see like the thing with Lonzo is that this is the thing I always talk about. Like I always use the point of reference because like fans will always only have so much information, right? Like when we're making our opinions or we're talking on the podcast, like for example, my favorite example of this is the Markelle Fultz, Jason Tatum thing, where everyone's like, they love to revisit that and not act like Fultz was the obvious number 1 prospect in that draft. And it was kind of the consensus and everyone rallied around that. And Sixers fans were really excited when they made that trade. The Sixers fans also didn't have the information that the Celtics and the Sixers had, which was that like he wasn't doing well in workouts. He was really nervous. There was some weird thing happening with his shot. And the Lonzo thing is another point of contention for this, where it's like, we as fans were like, oh, this is a nice move. Why would the Pelicans do this? Then we find out why the Pelicans would do it, because they all have access to his medicals.
I've got something very relevant right now. Did you see Michael Reinsdorf gave an interview probably about 20 minutes before we started recording? Did you read some of the quotes from this? Michael Reinsdorf asked about the concept of rebuilding and if the mandates of the next candidate. We want to win, but we don't want to win if it's not sustainable.
This is exactly what we're talking about right now.
Well, and like, but what is that? be. I don't like you. Everything you've done is the exact opposite of that.
Right.
Okay. Reinsdorf, and he's talking about the GM search. I interview someone and they're not sold on Billy Donovan. They're not sold on a Hall of Fame coach. They're not sold on a person who's won a championship in college, who's gone
NBA Hall of Fame coach, right?
Yeah.
Wait. Hold on.
I'm
hearing this.
Who I believe with the Chicago Bulls every year is given the team that he was given. I think he achieved really good results. Not the results we wanted, but that's not because of Billy. So if someone's not interested in Billy as our coach and Billy wants to be our coach and someone's not interested in that, and they're probably not the right candidate for us.
I do kind of agree with that, to be honest with you, because I think that it's just like this team is never going anywhere with these rosters. But at the same time, like, it's going to continue to go nowhere with these rosters unless you have a plan. Like, are you just going to... So here's my... Before you continue.
Okay.
If you don't want to rebuild, what are you doing with your cap space this summer? Because they have the most cap space of anyone this summer. Because once the Lakers sign Austin Reeves,
they've got a massive chance to facilitate all these teams that are going to want to. Somebody's going to flame out. Somebody's going to
do. Are they going to do that? Which Vicini talked about this. I saw a clip of him. He posted this earlier.
Yeah.
Are they going to take on like bad contracts and try to get draft picks?
The cat is what I'm looking at. Like
Paul George was what I was thinking. I don't think the Sixers are going to do it just because the Sixers drive me insane and never. No, I don't even want them to do that, to be clear. Like, I just am like, I don't think that.
I don't think that's good for you guys.
I don't think they're creative, is what I'm trying to say. Like, I don't think they just look at it as like, we're just going to ride this out. The Sixers are a tax write-off. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
I think you could either go one of two directions. Vicini talked about this too. Like, his co-host suggested like they might be able to just like get like Aaron Wiggins or Isaiah Joe and a first round pick because OKC needs to save money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
right.
Those kind of things, right?
Yep.
My thought on this was like, if you're not doing that, if you're not using your cap space to take on and get like draft picks and prospects and whatever like teams usually do in this scenario, you should be throwing RFA bags at guys like
absolutely, yeah.
Walker Kessler, Tari Eason,
yeah,
guys that are still relatively young and could have some more upside. We just saw and to be clear, this doesn't always work out. Like, there's more risk involved in this than something like we just laid out, where it's like fairly low risk. But like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, we're seeing right now with Nickeil Alexander-Walker, where he got to a new situation and he's looking like a top 50 player in the NBA and a really additive two-way wing for a Hawks team that could potentially win a playoff series. And like, those are the kind of guys in their mid-20s that are like restricted free agents that you should be chasing.
How about Peyton Watson?
Another guy that I think that like could potentially have more upside that they should be trying to. If you're just going out and you're giving like Rui Hashimura $25 million a year, like none of this is going to get any better. Like it has to be someone with at least theoretical impact and upside that could really help your team moving forward and be sustainable. You can't just keep doing the like even like Lou Dort. Like Lou Dort was part of a championship team, but like he's not doing anything for the Chicago Bulls next year.
Yeah.
Like he's I know he's also in the same general age range, but like it's just like it has to be someone that you think could actually make a difference in a different context than, you know, going out and signing just vets because they'll fill minutes for you next year.
My issue with that is they are so far away. They have nobody. Like nobody. Like it is just Josh Giddey basically. Like in terms of like
they have Montas Buzelis.
Well, they have Montas Buzelis, but like that's not like I don't see Montas Buzelis. Do you see Montas Buzelis as like a creator? Like in the long run, do you see him as kind of
the pitch?
Is that the pitch? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't see it.
I mean, I don't think he's going to be like a playmaking hub, but I think he could be like no, I definitely think he could be like a secondary scorer with some like added defensive value. Like
I think his upside is like creation, attack, and closeouts, and like that's it.
I disagree.
Like, Really?
I think that he definitely has more. If you watch him play, his handle's really good. He's fluid.
Great. I like the passing.
No, his passing sucks.
I like
the opposite.
Okay.
This is we're doing reverse Jalen Johnson right now.
Let's go.
Thing that I think with him that is okay, I shouldn't say his passing sucks.
Yeah.
He gets tunnel vision is what I'm trying to say. And a lot of young wings do, to be clear. But like his whole thing like that has driven me insane is like when I watch, I'm like, there's a read you missed. There's like whatever. Like those are the things that I hope that he can get better at. But I think as a creator, secondary scoring wing, like I think he could easily be the second or third best player on a good team is my take with him.
Why are we not seeing that right now with Josh Giddey as like a primary like playmaker? Then is like kind of, it's not like he's like overburdened with the responsibility. I get it. Josh Giddey's got like stats and everything though. You know what I'm saying? Like
we do this all the time with wings. He's 21 years old. Like
I get it. Like
like Jaylen Brown would have looked like shit on this team 5 years ago or 7 years ago, whenever it was.
Yeah, but again, Jaylen Brown is like an insane outlier in terms of development. That's like saying
I'm aware, but like I just
bad.
watched Peyton Watson went from averaging 3 points a game in college to being like a good offensive player in the NBA by the time he's 23.
I'm not saying Matas Buzelis is like a no-hoper. I actually really like Matas Buzelis as like a player. I was really down on him in the draft. He owned me. He's like a very good player. I don't think that you can make decisions about your future in terms of like signing vets to put around him based on his theoretical upside, because I don't think it's high enough for what you need.
I don't know what the self-created looks are for him, but I do. Whenever I watch, he creates a lot of his own offense. He's shooting 58% from 2 this year, 36% from 3.
That's pretty impressive, actually.
He's getting to the line 3 times a game. He's shooting 79% from the line. He's an 80% career free throw shooter. Once again, the only thing that is frustrating with me is that I just wish he was a better playmaker if he's going to have the ball all the time. Maybe he can get there in time. I don't know. He only averages like 2 assists a game and he has the ball a lot. But the long and short of this is I actually think that he is a core piece that he's the only player on this team I care about is what I'm trying
right. Well, I mean, I care about him, but I also just think like I would rather have the Wizards situation right now than the Bulls situation. I know you did probably disagree with me on that, but like,
I mean, sure, because the Bulls are just like such a blank slate that it's just like, also
that's kind of what I'm arguing about. Like in the first place with this is like, you're so far away. Why are you even talking about like signing? I
don't, maybe, sure. I don't know. I have to think about that. Like I'm kind of like wait until after the draft lottery for me because none of this matters. If either of these teams get a top 3 pick and nail it, and then we're having a total like, sure. If
that's what I'm saying, I feel better about it. Even if you get like, I don't know, even if you get like Wagler or something, so like
that's where I think the Bulls are in a little bit of an advantageous position with this new rebuild moving forward.
Yeah,
only due to the fact that they have all this cap space. They have all of their own draft picks. And on top of that, like the Wizards might just be like, even if they love, like, I'm just thinking of like Darius Acuff, because he obviously wouldn't work with Trae Young. And they think Darius Acuff is like Damian Lillard.
Right.
There's a chance they pass on him just because they're like, there's a pressure from ownership to win right now. And I think the Bulls are more likely just to be like, we're such a blank slate in comparison to them. Like they just traded for Anthony Davis and Trae Young. Like they clearly want to compete and win games next year. So I think that what I'm trying to get at here is basically like, if you ask me which team is more likely to make the playoffs next year, sure, I'll go with the Wizards, obviously. If you ask me which team has potential to like really get this thing right, like, and like make like a meaningful difference moving forward, I might take the Bulls. Like, and
I would take whoever gets the lottery luck, because that's the issue. Yeah, exactly, it's just like the Wizards just haven't got the lottery luck. That's my only argument, is that just like, I don't think you have to play the asset. You know me, like I'm really against tanking, like in general. Like I think you do need to like have something of a competitive thing. That has to be the last step. When you're this far away, I don't think that you're ready to start putting a real team around Matas Buzelis. I think you are still in asset accumulation mode. Like, I think that I like Buzelis.
If the Bulls win a championship, Buzelis will be like, and he's still on the team. This is obviously so far away.
Right, yeah.
But if they theoretically get fucking Cam Boozer or Darren Peterson or fucking whoever in this draft, and 7 years from now, we're like, the Bulls have built a championship core. These guys are in their prime. Buzelis is realistically probably the third best player on that team. What I said was second or third best player on a good team with his size, athleticism, handle, self-creation ability. Like I think he can get to a point where he's a decent to good defender.
Sure, I agree with all that. Yeah.
Then I think that is the kind of guy that, like, we'll get to him in a little bit, but like, I think you said earlier, Caruso's their best move. I think Buzelis, considering the draft, is like, we could do a redraft in a few years and Buzelis could be like a top 3 guy in this draft.
That's certainly the best result. Yes. I would say that.
I mean, think about how bad that draft was too. It's like, we were just like, damn, like it really did not feel, and the way that I thought about it on draft night versus the way I feel now, he's changed my perception the most of anyone of any recent draft pick.
For sure. No, and he's done great. I really hated him in that draft. He's done awesome. He's totally owned me.
Weird year. G League Ignite is just such a
shake the thing. But what I would say, my pushback on that would be that the Caruso thing was undone by a disastrous move. So like the result, like, I think it should have been something where it's similarly like you tie back to like, oh, this is how they got good young player X as they flipped the Caruso pick. And that made sense at the time because they had to, do this. And they totally fucking boofed that. Like, so it sucks. Anyway, we took a long enough detour. We've got 30 minutes left.
We're fine.
Get through 3 years.
Yeah. They
don't make trades. So
yeah, luckily they didn't really make any moves during this time. Like, all right, they signed Goran Dragic, signed Kostas Antetokounmpo.
That's hilarious. Let's go.
Yeah,
so a lot of these guys I literally do not even like recognize. Like Carrick Jones and like Malcolm Hill, I at least recognize the name. Who is Henry Drell?
I don't remember Henry.
What the fuck is that? Like,
dude, they thought his name was Henry Drill, and they were like, the birthplace of drill. We're bringing Henry home. Who is this guy? He's from Estonia. This is a fucking made up player, dude. This is a 2K.
He played 4 games. Let's go. Go off
4 games. Wow. There will be Bulls fans like, I can't believe you didn't remember Demon Henry Drell.
And then they signed Jason Thompson and Ethan Sherwood Strauss together.
Both of them, Ethan Thompson.
Yep.
They signed Patrick. Actually, funny enough, one of the other moves at the time, they signed Patrick Beverley before he went full evil mode. And he actually ended up having he had a moment with the Bulls. He was a Chicago guy. I think this was a buyout, right? Yeah. He had I feel like he played really well for them in like a play-in game or something, like the play-in riser he was. But yeah, this was not a meaningful move, but at least a solid hometown reunion here. Okay, so this is the first trade that they made in 2 years. They traded a 2nd round pick, 2 second-round picks for Julian Phillips. But that's a draft night trade. So they traded 2 seconds for a second to take Julian Phillips.
Perfect.
So that's not really a trade to me. That's like a draft pick for draft pick trade.
Yeah.
Like that I don't count that. So a player for player trade, 3 years they waited in between to do.
It's crazy.
Because this is where they signed. So this is after Kobe's breakout season. They signed him to the scam contract. We're yelling on the podcast a year into this. We're like, they're going nowhere. He has 2 years left on this deal. You could go get a 1st round pick for Kobe White. And I know you're not going to pay him at the end of this contract because that's what you always do.
Yeah.
So you should trade him and they got offers for 1st round picks. We heard contenders were interested in him as like a bench guard. They didn't entertain any of it. They just shut it down. And then they waited and waited and waited. They eventually end up sending him to Charlotte this past deadline.
Disastrous.
A
really good move. Like where we're at, great move to sign him on the number they got him on. Excellent.
Yeah. It was like 3 years, 27 million. I think it was like a scam deal. Yeah. And then he ended up averaging like 20 and whatever. So they signed Javon Carter to this MLE deal for 3 years and then just sent him to Siberia. and now he's
I kind of
finally
liked
back
that
playing.
move at the time because he was kind of coming off a moment with the Bucks. Like,
yeah, he had just resurrected his career with the Bucks.
Yeah.
Then he goes there and he plays 13 minutes a game, 8 minutes a game, and then basically doesn't play his last year, gets completely waived. And by the way, only played 120 games in 3 years for them. Gets waived, ends up kind of once again trying to revive his career with Orlando right now. He at least had a hot start with them. He hasn't really been playing for them as much recently, I don't think, but he's actually helped them. Remember this guy? Owner team. When they, I just remember when they signed him,
picked him in some silly draft that we did at some point. Like,
it was such a shock to try, as someone with dyslexia, to try to read that name. I basically had an aneurysm trying to read this man's name. And yeah, no, he I feel like you did you had him in the, like, we probably did like the YKB awards and you had him in the, like,
he had a moment. I watched a game where he was like, okay, like, he was like, yeah, this is my guy.
He did not have a moment. Stop.
He had a moment.
He played 23 games, played 11 minutes a game, and then was out of the league.
Okay, well, one of those games I watched, he was hooping. So
that's like Bill does the same thing as us.
Yeah.
Where he will watch a game and then he'll just never be able to get that out of his head, especially if he sees the guy live.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
But the recent one that he did on the podcast was, you know how like narratives start at the beginning of the season and you just never really shake the narrative for the rest of the year?
Yeah.
We do this with rookies a lot, where it's like, Benedict Mathurin is a superstar in the making. And then it's like, oh, then you look at his numbers and you're like, wow, he really just like was like amazing for like the first month of the season and then came back down to earth.
Yeah.
The guy that he did that with on his awards, made up awards, which by the way, we'll do our own in the Patreon episode later this week. But he did the best players under like 15 minutes a game, and like named off a few guys, and Andre Drummond was one of them. And awesome. I was like, Andre Drummond, who I love with all my heart, has been legitimately the worst player in the NBA for like 3 months. Like, he's had like one good game, maybe two, if I'm being generous, in the last 3 months. Like, he was good to start the year. Everything was looking like he was kind of rebouncing. Maybe he just had a weird injury last year, whatever. No, Andre Drummond has been, and the fact that he still plays for the Sixers blows my mind. Nurse was playing him last night, and I was like, why are we doing this still? Like, there's no way that even if dude, do you know who the Spurs backup center was when Wemby got hurt last night? Because they had Cornette playing starters minutes.
Oh, let me think about this real quick. Is it Zach Collins still on the team, or no? They traded him. Fuck, who is it?
He's on the Bulls. Zach Collins.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So it was Carter Bryant. They played Bismack Biyombo.
Let's go, dude.
They put Carter Bryant at the 5 and they won.
Let's go.
I was losing my mind during that game. But anyway, I just had to bring that up. I was like, this is insane. And someone in the Discord was like, Carter Bryant would be our 5th best player. And I'm like, he's shooting 37% from the field as a rookie. He never plays.
No lies detected. No lies detected, by the way. Yeah. Tell me they're wrong. Tell me they're wrong.
I mean, honestly, you could tell me that it would be a fun exercise to do, because I know Grimes drives me insane and he's not a good player. But if I tried to figure out the 6th best Sixer, because Kelly Oubre's defense has fallen off a cliff, I want to try to figure out who would be, if you're listening to this and you want to comment or send this in the Discord or whatever, tell me who you think is the worst player in the NBA that would be the 6th best player on the Sixers. Because there's a lot of really bad players that I think could fit that criteria.
Nikola Vucevic.
He looked pretty bad the other day.
I took a fucking beating on Celtics Twitter for being too mean to Vooch coming off a thing. I'm like, okay, I'll check in with you guys once the playoffs start.
Nah, that was pretty alarming. I watched that game where I was just like, because the Sixers needed the Raptors to lose that game, and I was like, Vucevic is literally gonna fuck this for us,
dude. He was negative 15 in like 8 minutes.
And you guys won by like 20.
Yeah, like it was.
You pulled away at the end.
Everyone was quote tweeting. All I said was that he was negative 15 in 8 minutes, and everyone jumped down my throat and was like, I assumed that I didn't like the trade. And well, I didn't, but I like before I knew that we could get out of the tax, and then I was fine with it. I was like, oh, it's a good trade. Everyone was assuming I had some like agenda for Anthony Simons. Like, no, Anthony Simons sucks too. I just don't expect this guy to be good. It drives me fucking insane. Celtics fans are like, Luka, well, who are you going to do? Play Luka Garza? Yes, you're going to play Luka Garza. He's better. Sorry, he's not good, but he's better than Vooch.
Been better than Vooch.
Yes.
But yeah. So yeah, your problems are not ignored by the masses.
Sorry, I'll make this more relatable. Celtics fans are fucking annoying. How about that? Yeah.
Well, I need the Celtics to win again tonight because they're playing the Hornets. We got so lucky that the only reason that the Celtics are trying is because they need more reps with Tatum after the injury. Because normally you just wouldn't give a fuck about these games. Like you just be like, I think let's bench guys and who cares.
If we win tonight, it's the last game that matters.
Well, this is the only one that matters to me because you guys are playing the Hornets and you just beat the Raptors, and if we lose to the Rockets tomorrow, there's a scenario where we can fall to 9 or 10 and it's a disaster. I mean, we're fucked if that happens.
Would you rather get in the playoffs or would you rather have the outside shot?
When you don't have your draft pick, I'm just like, give me the playoffs. Like, I'm like, I don't
even protected.
Top 4, like
yeah, but then you would jump up. Well,
7% chance.
Yeah,
like I'm just like it's
but
not.
It's a really good draft to jump up.
I
like
get it.
Those guys,
I get it. But like we got our luck keeping the pick last year. I just don't.
Yeah.
I would rather have a fun, like we lose in 5 or 6, and like
sure,
VJ has a moment kind of thing. Like.
I'm rooting for you guys to get the Knicks. That would be great if you guys could play the Knicks round 1. That would be excellent for me. I would love that.
I just need to tell you, me and Chioda recorded, and I was like, I don't think they're winning a playoff series when we did that episode the other day.
Yeah.
We're losing the minutes with VJ Edgecombe, Paul George, Embiid, and Maxey all playing together. Like, we don't even win the minutes when those guys play. Like, I'm like, the more I'm watching them, the more I'm just like, they're going to be competitive. Like, they'll like have a few games where they're like scaring teams, but I'm just like, this team sucks, dude. Like I go back and forth between like, we can shock the world and like, just get the fucking season over with. But I'll say this much. If you told me them falling to the 9 or 10 seed and losing to like the Heat in Miami or something, or like losing to Orlando or something in the play-in gets one of Nurse or Morey fired, I'm with that. I'm like, go for that. But I don't think they care.
I think you can talk yourself into pretty much any outcome. Like, I think the worst case scenario for you guys is 7. I'm going to be honest. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Celtics fan, but I think that's the
we're going to get annihilated by the Celtics. And I think the Pistons would actually kick the shit out of us. Yeah. I think we would have I think we have a 20% chance of beating the Knicks. And I think the Knicks would beat us.
Yeah.
And once it made it so that we couldn't play like the Raptors, the Hawks, the Cavs, like I was just like, it's going to be tough, even with these teams that are like seemingly not perfect.
I think the Knicks are one of the only teams where you guys kind of have I don't want to say a mental edge, but just like the way that you guys played them last year, I think it would like make MSG nervous. You know what I'm saying? Like
every time we play them, it's they've blown us out once.
Yeah.
And then every other game, it's really close and we take it down to the wire.
Yeah.
I can't do another Knicks series, dude. Like, it's just like their fans are so fucking annoying. They come down here and they hoot and holler, yo, at the fucking Wells Fargo Center. And it's just embarrassing. And we can't get a fucking rebound. And I'm screaming, get a rebound. Like, nothing has changed. Like, it's the same exact matchup it was 2 years ago. The Knicks are slightly more talented, but just as maddening. And the Sixers are, I would say, because Joel is just not even what he was 2 years ago. They're more talented now, but even more maddening, I think, than they were 2 years ago. So it would be a fun series for sure. And then I would lose my mind. All right, let's fly through some of this stuff. They finally make a trade. They trade Alex Caruso to the Oklahoma City Thunder for Josh Giddey, What do you think about this trade looking back at it? We hated the fuck out of it at the time. We also thought they were going to pay Josh Giddey $40 million a year.
I was going to say it turned out way better than I expected.
Yeah.
Still a dog shit trade.
I'll say this much.
Yep.
Considering that they waited this long to trade Caruso, it's actually a decent trade.
I guess that's true. Yeah.
But all of their moves always come with this caveat where it's like, why didn't you trade Alex Caruso 2 years ago? And when a contender might be like, fuck it, let's give 2 first-round picks for Alex Caruso. Yeah. And like, I remember at that deadline being like, I would give 2 first-round picks for the Sixers to go get Alex Caruso and have him start for the Sixers alongside Maxey and Batum and Embiid and Oubre. And I was just like, that's your starting 5. They could make a run in these playoffs. Fuck it, let's go for it. And we ended up not doing that. And then Josh Giddey ended up getting traded to the Bulls, and they signed him to a contract that's a fine contract for Josh Giddey. I just don't want to have Josh Giddey on my team because I know I'm not winning a playoff series.
Yeah.
If I have Josh Giddey on my team.
I mean, this is a championship winning move.
Yeah. Thunder. Caruso was massive for them, dude. Caruso was even better than I thought he was going to be for the Thunder.
And not only was Caruso good, you also removed Giddey, who was just like single-handedly destroying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was just like sinking your offense in the big moments. And Daigneault was not benching him. So,
yeah. Again, another point against Daigneault. We did kind of skip over the return of Henry Drell and Andrew.
Fuck, my bad.
And we also didn't talk about the Andrew Funk signing.
Well, first off, I'm not going to disrespect Penn State legend Andrew Funk.
That's not a real guy,
brother. Mean? He won us a tournament game a few years ago. He's a real guy. He hit like 5 threes.
That's me getting caught drinking at age 15 and giving the cops a name. My name is Andrew Funk.
Going off that Andrew Funk, dude.
I'm funked up off the Andrew Funk. That's not real, dude. Andrew Funk.
So, I mean, Jalen Pickett, Andrew Funk, Penn State team was a special team until we got destroyed by Dylan Daisu and Texas. So they finally make a trade. They draft Montas Buzelis. They signed Patrick Williams to this horrible contract.
I was gonna say another instantly bad. Everyone was like, this sucks.
By the way, I'm gonna say one nice thing about them. I think the Buzelis pick is fantastic. I think we already kind of discussed that. That's great pick. One of their probably their only great draft pick.
Yeah.
Iowa's a good one. I would say this is a great one.
Yeah.
So they signed Jalen Smith. This is the one nice thing I'm going to say about them. They signed Jalen Smith to an MLE deal, which turned out to be pretty good. Jalen Smith's one of the better MLE signings in the last few years.
Yep.
They use their MLE. That's something that, like, when the Sixers never use their MLE, we've used the MLE one time since Daryl Morey's become the GM, and it was to sign Wash PJ Tucker.
That's crazy.
Some years we didn't have full access, so we never use it. They signed Alex Caruso to the MLE. Great move. Javon Carter didn't work out, but they at least used it. And Jalen Smith. That's 2 of 3. That was at least, those were good moves at least. And Jalen Smith was like 23 when they did this. He's turned himself into a solid rotation player. Like,
I think the process on the Javon Carter signing was even pretty defensible.
Yeah, it's fine.
Totally honest. Like,
they didn't
work out, but like, I think it's fine.
They didn't consider that Billy hates small guards, so that was the part that they really like funked up on.
Andrew funked it.
So as part of a 3-team trade, the Chicago Bulls traded. This is DeMar sign and trade to the Kings.
Yeah.
So they ended up getting, what did they even get for this? It was,
I don't know, man. CD Sissoko? No, they got their pick back. This is where they get the Noah Essengate pick back.
I don't think it is. I think it was the Levine trade where they got their pick back.
Oh my God, wait. Traded Zach Collins.
They did 2 trades with them in a span of, they did 2 3-team trades with the Bulls, the Kings, and the Spurs in 2024.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing.
Yeah. This is the DeMar sign and trade where DeMar goes to the Kings. So who did they even get? I think they just got a trade exception, right? They got Chris Duarte?
Chris Duarte, yeah, is I think
Oof.
what.
And
God,
I didn't even know that he was
2028 second round pick.
So yeah, this was just basically facilitating. Yeah. And yeah, Harrison Barnes goes to the Spurs. They also got a first. The Spurs got a first in this for facilitating that. How did the Spurs get a first?
I don't know, man. I don't know. 2031 first round draft pick
from the Kings.
Oh my God, dude. Tell me that's protected.
I think it is, but it's not as protected as you would think.
I have to look that up.
Go look at Kings future draft picks.
Yeah.
Because then they did a few months later, they did the Zach LaVine, Kevin Huerter goes to Chicago, and De'Aaron Fox goes to the Spurs, and they also get Zach Collins and Trey Jones in this. They get their first round pick back to get Noah Essengay and draft him, which I didn't like the pick at the time. We'll see if that ends up working out.
Trill, it's so bad. It's so bad. It's an unprotected swap.
I forgot it's an unprotected swap.
With the Spurs.
And by the way, they didn't get it back in the De'Aaron Fox trade. The Kings did not get that swap back. The Bulls got their pick.
It's like the one team you don't want to have a fucking swap with, dude. Oh my God.
And the Bulls not being willing to take on salary in the DeMar sign and trade made it so they didn't get that swap.
Oh my God.
The Spurs literally were just like, let's call these dumbass fucking teams.
Yeah, why did the Spurs get to be the one? I mean, that's how you
they did it with Nico too. They got a swap from the Mavericks.
What are we noticing? That all of these trades involve some team that is top 2 in their conference. Like
it's the Monarchs.
Somehow, like
they're always just hitting up the Bulls.
Yeah,
the Sixers didn't do a single fucking trade with the Bulls during this time period, and I'm so fucking mad.
Oh God.
It's the Celtics, the Thunder, the Spurs.
Yep. Oh God.
Maddening. But yeah, so this is a long ass trade, but basically they got Zach Collins, Trey Jones, and the Noah Essengay pick for Zach LaVine. They got off the LaVine contract at least. They shouldn't have signed it in the first place.
First for Zach LaVine is pretty good business. I'm going to be totally honest.
But it was their first. They traded for DeMar DeRozan.
I get it. I'm just saying, isolated. This is a good move.
It was still protected though, but they wanted to try to make a play-in push.
Oh my God.
That's why they did this trade. It was still protected. Like they could have just pulled the plug and kept the pick. But they wanted to they made the play and then lost, and they got the 12th pick. Instead of, it was like top 10 protected. They could have just pulled out. A lot of sexual stuff on this episode, I gotta say.
God damn, dude. Fuck.
So, yeah, unbelievable. Just absolute.
Trey Jones is okay.
Just a disaster front office, dude.
That Zach Collins contract is worse than you think, too. Which is the other crazy thing here.
Yeah, they took that on. The Trey Jones was at least,
Trey Jones is good.
He's on a good contract too. Yeah. He makes like $9 million a year. So that was but yeah, I mean, the Kings got Zach LaVine and 3 firsts. They had to take on the Zach LaVine contract. And by the way, you saw he's picking up the option on that one.
It's gonna be.
I love how they're just announcing it now. The Scotto's just like, yeah, he's picking that up. By the way, I'm like, yeah, I had a feeling that Kentavious Caldwell-Pope was going to pick up the option on that one.
We figured that. Speaking of picking that up, I saw Russillo in the wild for the first time on the timeline the other day. Today, really good tweet because they were somebody had an article about that guy Aaron RuPaul.
Was he saying that he regretted his vote?
Anyway, no, I don't think he would.
Continue.
Somebody was quoting. It was an article about that guy Aaron RuPaul, who's always quote tweeting Trump and always
it is related to Trump.
It is. No, and Russillo, but the guy looks just like Russillo. And Russillo quote tweeted it and said, thanks, guy. Again, Russillo's real. We talked about this before when he left, but Russillo's pretty aware. It was a pretty funny joke to make, to be totally honest.
Russillo, it almost makes it worse in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it does suck that he, I don't know. I mean, he's a Gen X victim of toxic like patriarchy. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like he should have been a soft boy like Pitchfork writer, like if he was a millennial, but he just ended up Gen X instead. Like,
can't wait to see a screenplay one day get made into a movie.
No, God, it's gonna suck.
So Noah Essingay, Rocco Zalarsky. I feel like I've heard about him, but he's whatever. Oh, they traded him for Lachlan Olbrich, right, on draft night in 2025. Sure. Traded Lonzo for Isaac Okoro. At the time, I remember being like,
"You were on this
flyer."
I thought it was a disaster, but it
because I was like, Lonzo's cooked product, dude. Yeah. Like, I was like, watch Lonzo play basketball, and he's just obviously not that guy anymore. And then he had to, it's sad, but he had to medically retire, basically. Yeah. But I will say, people have pointed this out to me. The part where you might be able to criticize the Bulls a little bit is like, should the Cavs have had to pay to get off Isaac Okoro making like $10 million a year?
Yeah.
Like, probably. And they just that was basically the reason they really made this trade, was because they could just move off Lonzo easily and he wasn't guaranteed. And basically Isaac Okoro, let's see, what has he done for the Bulls this year? He's averaging Isaac Noscoro is averaging 9 points per game, shooting 57% from 2 on low volumes, 33% from 3. That still continues to be an issue for him.
It's like not good, but it's like not terrible. Like, I don't know.
I honestly have not thought about Isaac Okoro at all. Like, I know that he's been injured too. Yeah, negative 3.9 BPM. He stinks, dude. But I thought it was a reasonable flyer at the time. Like, I don't know, he's 25. Like, he was a high pick at one point. I've never really thought he was good, but like, it is very funny that they just collected another Patrick Williams. It's extremely funny to be like, let's go get guard Patrick Williams.
We have Patrick Williams in Cleveland.
Signed Trae Young to a multi-year deal. Good contract for him. Signed Yuki, 2-way contract. Josh Giddey, the contract ended up not being nearly as bad as we thought it was going to be.
What I hate is that in order to get Giddey, they left the funk. There's no more funk.
They dropped the funk. We want the funk.
We wanted the funk, and unfortunately, they were too giddy to have the funk.
When they give you the funk, you got to take it.
You got to take it. No, you even if you want to josh around, you want to be giddy, you got to keep the funk. Keep the funk.
So this is the deadline where
I'm sorry. The way Trill has this thing, the bottom thing right now is signed Mac McClung to a 2-way contract, which is
and McClung's purple because I clicked on his profile.
Which is very funny.
I just clicked on his profile.
That is such an indignant way. That is just such an insult to injury to have that
demonic.
Yeah.
Anyway. And then this past deadline where they started to make trades again, and they saved the franchise by accident by trading for Jaden Ivey. They traded for Anthony Simons. Ousmane Dieng, we'll see if he ends up doing anything or if this is just like a Mickey kind of random performances with the Bucks. But the Kobe White trade sucked because they waited too long. Yeah. They got Colin Sexton, who cares? They got Anthony Simons.
Io trade might have been okay. Leonard Miller's been like all right.
That might be the one where it's like, all right, Leonard Miller might be a guy. And like we got 4 seconds. Like, that's basically like getting a late first. And you take a flyer on Leonard Miller. Rob Dillingham was supposed to be the guy they were trading for in that trade, and he's just not an NBA player.
It's dilling over.
Yeah, it's tough. All these moves are just not whatever.
This is all deck chairs. Yeah,
this is all just clearing cap space, taking flyers on guys. It's fine, but like, who really cares? They at least got enough guys to make them bad enough to tank for the second half of this season.
I think the Simons trade is like fine to get a look at. I think he's had more of a chance to be helpful to them than Vooch did, and you get a 2nd-round pick for your trouble. That's not like terrible.
I think all of these guys won't be on the Bulls next year is my prediction. Maybe someone comes back on like a small contract, but this summer, let's just see what they have to look forward to.
Next year, Nick Richards.
He's on expiring.
Okay.
He is horrendous. He might be the worst player in the NBA. Like, I genuinely, the thing with Nick Richards is like, I remember 2 years ago being like, why does everyone think Nick Richards is good? He is terrible on defense now. he's never really been good on defense, but he's like, if you look at metrics, he's the worst in the league by far. And he just doesn't do anything. Like I would be shocked if he's on anything more than a vet min next year. Their books are Noah Essengay, Matas Buzelis, Rob Dillingham. They might fucking salary dump Rob Dillingham if they can, or waive him 6.8 million. Holy shit. Trey Jones, Jalen Smith, Isaac Okoro for 1 year left at 11 million. 3 more years of the Patrick Williams contract at 18 million. Josh Giddey at 25. They have right now, they have on the books $92 million next year once they pick up Leonard Miller's $2.4 million. They can go, like I said, like they can open up cap space this summer. They could open up even more a year from now if they wanted to kick the can down the road and just get like big expirings. They're not in a good position, obviously. Like the Karnisovas did a lot of damage here, but I do think that there's a way that like you get some lottery luck here. You make the savvy moves, whether it's going for those younger restricted free agents that we talked about earlier to make like somewhat of a competitive young core on this team, or just taking all of that bad money into cap space. The worst thing possible is if they're signing like 30-year-old guys to like big money with this cap space. Then they're just never going to recover. They're just always going to be in this this loop where they're just always mid and they can never, like, honestly, I think they'll be bad again next year unless they make like real definitive signings where they get like a top pick in the draft. But yeah, I mean, Karnisovas is, I think for my money, is he the worst GM of this decade?
Ooh. He never had anything like the Halliburton trade, right?
McNair won an executive of the year, by the way.
That's true.
But like,
it's kind of an isolated incident.
They came closer to winning a playoff series that year.
That's true.
But the Halliburton trade is just, I mean, that's like an unforgivable sin.
Yeah, that's like the Vooch thing. It's like, you know, like the Vooch thing is bad because you don't have Franz Wagner. But like you had Tyrese Halliburton in your like the you know, Franz Wagner was never connected.
It was just an unknown thing.
An unknown thing. You know, like, and Halliburton's so much better than Franz Wagner. And
he's also like was in-house and was like, I want to be a king for my whole career.
I think if De'Aaron Fox wins a title this year, you gotta think like
McNair is I mean,
but again, I also feel kind of bad for McNair because it's like,
what could you
how
have
much
done?
of that is him and how much of that is just Vivek having his like hand up his ass and working him out like a puppet? You know,
and when we went through, I remember being like, we never did a full slop trial with him. We'll have to do one during the off season. We should just do like the last 15 years of the Kings for a slop trial. Like, because this Karnisovas is 100% guilty. Send him to Gitmo. Like, he should never, I don't think he should ever get an executive job again. Like, this is the kind of executive job you get, and you do such a bad job that no other team should give you an opportunity unless you work your way back up. Like, Elton Brand is someone that comes to mind where it's like maybe Elton Brand can get another shot because he only had like 1 or 2 years with the Sixers, and maybe they're not, although we haven't made moves recently that would make me feel any confidence in that if I'm hiring him. But I'm just trying to think of like guys around the league that have kind of like made their way back up. But like, if I would never, we talked about when we did the, by the way, Masai is a candidate for this job, this Bulls job.
I wonder, Masai, that's so interesting because Masai is like what's the real Masai? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Masai was a great GM at one point.
And like, saying, like,
my thing is like, Masai was a great GM at one point, and Ye was a little bit washed towards the end with the Bulls or with the Raptors.
Just check out and not care. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
what I'm saying is like, like what is exact, and like, does he have something to prove now?
Yeah.
Like, is he going to lock back in basically?
Is he did he hear the disrespect?
Are we getting the redemption arc from Masai Ujiri? Is like,
I mean,
in a major city,
that's what I was going to say. It's one of the more, like, if you restored the Bulls to like, outside of like bringing the Knicks to the promised land. That's probably, or like maybe the Lakers. It's like probably the best, like in terms of gravitas and like,
sure,
regime, like building. I mean, you turned Denver into a serious franchise.
Mm-hmm.
You won the title with the Raptors on the back of one of the ballsiest trades of all time. Like,
yep.
I think, yeah, I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it. Masai, I believe in you. Go do it.
We talked about it when we did the Masai Slop trial because we were like, I think that he deserves another shot. He won a title. He made some really good moves, some really ballsy moves, like you said, some great draft picks. And I think that he should get another shot. Karnisovas should never get another shot. No. Like Monty McNair probably should never get another shot, even though he, funny enough, did draft Tyrese Halliburton. That he traded him. But the long and short of this is that I think right now, I would say Karnisovas, considering the circumstances, has to hold the baton for worst GM right now. Although I think Troy Weaver because Troy Weaver's the other guy that you would consider for this, but like Troy Weaver is
Troy
drafted so well.
Yeah, he's kind of in it. Like this Pistons team is like, look, he wasn't there to see it through, but like he's kind of smiling down on
their core is all guys he drafted.
Yeah, I was saying the Force Ghost of Troy Weaver will be present at Little Caesars Arena.
I was gonna say, because the guys, even if you want to say like, well, like Ron Holland was the next front office and Duncan Robinson, those like you can find those guys.
Yeah.
The problem is that Troy couldn't find those guys. But the real thing is that like Beef Stew was him, DeRozan was him, Asar was him. Cade was him.
Got DeRozan too. That was not like I'm just going to take this pick. He made a trade for DeRozan. Like he identified that, and that was
Troy Weaver clears Karnisovas by a mile because at least you can fire Troy Weaver and then make a good team afterwards. But we'll see what he does with
Troy. Is just like he just like we said. Like Troy is elite at like one thing.
Yeah,
Karnisovas
is not. Karnisovas' best trait was literally like MLE deals. Which is like not the thing you want your GM to be great at.
That's not a good. If you're building a GM in a lab, that's like pretty low on the thing. Like I'll give me the raw upside of a Troy Weaver at any day of the week.
We can mold him.
We can mold Troy Weaver into the next great like GM. Like
definitely. All right. Well, this was a lot of fun. We'll be back with the YKB Awards on the bonus episode later this week, and then right after the games conclude on Sunday, we'll do it while the games are concluding Sunday night. Yeah. We're going to do our play-in and playoff preview on Sunday night. Let's get it. I'm very pumped.
We'll also take a look at the final over-unders. We'll do a little accountability.
That as well. We have to do that. Yeah, that's actually we should lead off with our over-unders on that, and then we'll talk about the play-in, which the Sixers will probably be in, and I'll probably be streaming for. So follow that on YouTube and possibly Twitch. So
let's go.
Peace.